Here is everybody you need to be avoiding off of your waiver wire coming into week 2 of fantasy football. You do need to be careful because there are a ton of traps sitting there right now. You don't want to waste an opportunity on those guys while there are actual league winners on the waiver wire. Just like I don't waste time in these videos, hit that subscribe button if you're new and you do appreciate that. It helps the channel out so much, and drop a like if you are feeling generous. But the first trap, it's going to be Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers offense just in general. Last week was a crazy efficient situation, an unlikely win, all things considered, 34-32 over the Jets. The game total here was 38.5. So the fact that both of these teams almost met that is absolutely insane and something we cannot expect for the rest of the season. It let Aaron Rodgers finish with 25.6 fantasy points last week with 4 passing touchdowns, 244 yards. That's quarterback 7 on the week. We can't expect that to continue. This would have been his second best game last season. Now, granted, that was with the Jets and now we're with the Steelers, but the Steelers still have a decently low pace of play. It is still a Mike Tomlin offense, and it's close to a guarantee that they are not going to be this efficient on offense every single week when it comes to this season. Look at their weapons. It's DK Metcalf, it's Calvin Austin, Jonnu Smith. We saw this type of start for the Saints last year when they started 4-0 and were dominating everybody and then completely fell apart. This team, again, doesn't have the elite weapons to keep up with this level of efficiency, and especially we're looking at the run game. It's not great either. You have Jalen Warren, you have Kenneth Gainwell taking snaps. Caleb Johnson isn't even looking at the field, and Rodgers has averaged 1.6 passing touchdowns per game since 2022. He's 41 years old. That's not necessarily just going to jump up out of nowhere. Again, with the weapons, yes, you might have DK, but what we saw last week was a Sauce Gardner problem and the Jets defense problem. He will be better than that in weeks to come, but he just doesn't fit amazing in this Aaron Rodgers offense. If you've seen any of my videos before fantasy football drafts, I've talked about that enough, but Aaron Rodgers also has the second lowest completion percentage in the league. He did last year on targets over 10 yards downfield, as well as his catchable target rate thrown to his wide receivers. So he is the definition of kind of a boomer bust quarterback that won't be consistent enough to start every single week. Coming into this week 2 matchup, it's not a great situation either. And that also carries over to Kenneth Gainwell, who is a popular ad off the waiver wire right now. He had 54% of the snaps last week. He led the Steelers in that. 10 touches to Jalen Warren's 13. This is a situation where even if Jalen Warren were to get injured, or Caleb Johnson, I guess, will continue to not play, Kenneth Gainwell isn't going to be a startable enough guy. And we have to back up and say, is he ever going to be a running back that we can put in our flex spot? Again, even if these other running backs go down, I think the answer is no. If they were scoring 30 points a game in like a Bills efficient offense, then yeah, maybe. But the answer is no here. And we do need to realize that Caleb Johnson is only going to get more used. It can't get worse than last week. 1 carry, 4% of the snaps. I don't think he'll be a factor soon. In the back half of the season, maybe he will, but Kenneth Gainwell's role is essentially Caleb Johnson's to take. But another player this week that you should be avoiding off the waiver wire, and this is a hot take here, it's going to be Daniel Jones. Just don't use your top waiver priority or all of your fab to get this guy. Yes, he dropped 29.5 fantasy points last week against the Dolphins with 2 rushing touchdowns, some tush pushes. Like, it was some pretty green flags of usage. But the Dolphins team just completely looked absolutely terrible. They could not cover anything. The upside, again, on the ground for Daniel Jones has always been there. But he could give you a 9-point week just as easy as he could give you an 18-point game. So he has some pretty difficult matchups coming up against the Broncos this week, the Rams, the Titans, and the Raiders. Those are 4 you're not going to want to be starting Daniel Jones in unless, again, you're in a 2-quarterback league. He's a great ad. Just don't use your top waiver priority on him. There's actual league winners on the waiver wire waiting for you. If you want that video, I just posted it. All of the top waiver ads that people are hiding from you. Check it out. I'll pin it in the description. You can go watch that after this. It has timestamps throughout the whole thing, so you can skim through it really easily. But we should also be considering avoiding all of these wide receiver pass catchers for the 49ers right now. George Kittle goes down with a hamstring injury. He's probably going to be out for a few weeks. Ayuk is obviously out. Juwan Jennings is undergoing an MRI. Shoulder injury with him. He'll probably be back. It doesn't seem to be too serious. But then the rest of these wide receivers, you have Jacob Cowing on IR. You have Demarcus Robinson is going to be suspended. Then they go out and sign Kendrick Bourne, who has never had a top 35 wide receiver season in 8 years in the league. They got Sky Moore earlier in the offseason, who only had 4% of the snaps last week. Despite all of these injuries, he didn't really see the field. And then a 30-year-old MVS. The only guy I think is actually worth possibly stashing here is going to be Demarcus Robinson from when he comes back from suspension. But with Brock Purdy now dealing with his own injury with the shoulder and a toe for some reason, he has a chance of missing week 2 if that happens. Again, Ricky Pearsall is the only guy. And I guess obviously Christian McCaffrey here too. But Tunges looked good as a tight end option behind George Kittle. Will he continue to get usage? That's the question. I don't think he's going to be good enough, especially when you have top elite tight end options on the waiver wire to fill in for your guys like Kittle, for your guys like Brock Bowers if he happens to miss, guys like Evan Ingram. A lot of the top guys got injured. Check out that video if you do. And also, even if you don't need a tight end, it's smart to drop a player on the back end of your bench that you don't need. A guy like Tank Bigsby, who just got traded to the Eagles and is not going to be used. Drop somebody like that. Pick up a Juwan Johnson. I won't say all the names in the tight ends that we should be adding, but go do that so your league mates can't have them if they need a tight end. But we should also be going through and avoiding Trey Tucker off the waiver wire. This is a guy that dropped 13.4 fantasy points on 2 receptions, 54 yards, and a touchdown last week. Now, he did play over 90% of the snaps. He was clearly in that starting lineup, and he's going to continue to be. And it's a better passing offense this year than they had with Aiden O'Connell and they had with Gardner Minshew. They were both bottom 3 in catchable target rate last year thrown to their wide receivers. There's only 3 in the bottom 3, and they were 2 of them, so it can't get any worse than that. Geno Smith is definitely a better quarterback, and again, Brock Bowers may or may not be banged up, but this team did go out and draft more wide receivers. Dante Thornton is on the come up. He's the wide receiver 2 right now. He played 60% of the snaps in his very first game, out-targeted Trey Tucker with 4. It's definitely not a lot still, especially when you look at Geno Smith. He had 362 passing yards, 34 pass attempts. Trey Tucker did not have a high target share, under 15%. Thornton didn't have a high target share either, neither did Jack Besh, but he was clearly playing behind all 3 of these other wide receivers. This team is just not good enough to support a wide receiver 3 and 4 option consistently, especially when you have these rookies targeting and coming at him with the target share. He's only going to go down. He's going to be a bit boom bust, but not a guy that we can put in a flex again when we have so many good guys off the waiver wire. And very quickly, some defenses that we like to stream, but here are some ones you need to avoid in week 2. Again, streaming defenses in the waiver wire video. Number 1 is going to be the Jets. They have a good defense. Sauce Gardner is good. He held DK Metcalf to 1 catch on the 30 snaps that he guarded him on. They only dropped 5 points against the Steelers. It is a very negative matchup here, even worse now against the Bills. We don't want to start the Chiefs as well. They get a matchup against the Eagles. This team is great at keeping the ball safe, having a lower pace of play, running the ball, not getting sacked or forcing turnovers. So Jalen Hurts is rushing upside, and Saquon Barkley is going to keep that a safe matchup for them and not a good one for the Chiefs, even if their defense is really good on their own. We should also be sitting the Packers, one that a lot of people have rostered and start right now. They put up 10 fantasy points last week against a good Lions offense, all things considered. And Micah Parsons didn't even play a full snap share last week. You can expect that to jump up almost to a full snap share here against the Commanders on Thursday night. It's a solid offense, though. They have the dual threat ability with Jaden Daniels. The rushing game is pretty decent. Bill Krosky-Merritt looks fine. Not one we want to be starting, though. But that is going to finish this video. I will see you guys in the next video coming later tomorrow or the day after. Thank you guys so much for watching. All glory to the man above.